Welcome to the Starter Girlz podcast, your ultimate source of inspiration and empowerment. We're here to help women succeed in every area of their lives: career, money, relationships, and health and well-being, while celebrating the remarkable journeys of individuals from all walks of life who've achieved amazing things. Whether you're looking to supercharge your career, build financial independence, nurture meaningful relationships, or enhance your overall well-being, the Starter Girlz podcast is here to guide you. Join us as we explore the journeys of those who dare to dream big and achieve greatness. I'm your host, Jennifer Loehding, and welcome to this episode. Welcome to another episode of the Starter Girlz podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Loehding, and wherever you are tuning in today, we are so thrilled to have you. So today's episode, I'm so excited about this one. It's going to be fun. We've got a Texas gal on here, which is so much fun. I'm always excited when I get to talk to somebody here locally. Fun stuff. And so this is going to be about a journey, but not just any journey. One centered on discovering a deeper, more lasting joy. Our guest path has taken her from corporate life to the acting world and eventually to becoming a guide for others seeking fulfillment. Along the way, she discovered that joy isn't just a feeling. It's something you cultivate even in life's toughest moments. So I can't wait for you to hear from her and learn some of her, to hear about her story and her wisdom. But before we do that, we need to do a quick shout out to our sponsor. This episode is brought to you by Walt Mills Productions. Need to add excitement to your YouTube videos or some expert hands for editing? Look no further. Walt Mills is the solution you've been searching for. Walt is not only your go-to guy for spicing up content, he's the force behind a thriving film production company with numerous titles in the pipeline. Always on the lookout for raw talent, Walt is eager to collaborate on film and internet productions. With a background deeply rooted in entertainment and promotion, Walt Mills leverages years of skills to give you the spotlight you deserve. Want to learn more about Walt and his work? Head on over to waltmillsproductions.net and let your content shine. All right. And with that, we are ready to welcome our guest on the show today. So Marie Young, a joy guide, has made it her life's work to help others find purpose, fulfillment, and real lasting joy. Marie's journey took her through fascinating careers in both the corporate and acting worlds, but along the way, she discovered that true joy went beyond external achievements and others' approval. As she built her coaching practice, she felt the pressure and stress that often come with following one's calling. Searching for deeper peace, Marie found solace and strength in sounding and vagal nerve toning techniques, practices that reconnected her to a joyful life in ways she hadn't expected. So Marie, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to chat with you today.
Thank you. Oh, thank you very much. Ooh, excuse me. The dogs are very excited too.
They heard my voice
for
and
that.
They're just like,
yes, they were quiet the whole time we were talking and not recording. And now, if you'll hold on, I'll just let them out. I apologize. Thank you so much. Because, I feel like I just want to respect podcasters so much. And this is their time. And then it makes no sense to have your dogs in a room where you're recording. But then if I don't, then they scratch at the door. And then, and most of the time they're totally quiet, right? But if the Amazon man comes or something, like, oh gosh. So anyway.
I think the interesting thing about all of this is just to, for our listeners hearing this, because this I think is so important. We've kind of evolved the way we do business. If you think about it, though, ever since when COVID hit, right? We had to go back into working in our homes. I had an entrepreneurial business from like 1999 when my kids were little. I had my one daughter at the time was 2 years old, and I had my daughter with me. So I have many memories of them banging on the door when I'm on the phone or I'm trying to do work, and I got them with me, packing them in the car. And so I have always sort of had, a business where I've either had like kids or pets in tow, like it's been either or. And so now my kids are all grown and doing their things, but now I got pets. And so I feel like they're kind of like having kids too sometimes, But I think that's the beauty of this is we've evolved to sort of kind of accept some of this a little bit. And I think it's what makes us real and authentic.
Yeah, agreed. And it's also the way women have to do business, right? Like, or mothers, not, certainly not women, but, women with pets or, anyone with pets, not to exclude men, but, yeah, totally. Like you said, your kids, your dogs.
Are like furry baby friends sometimes,
I mean, so I have a 13-year-old and she's like, Mom, you love the dogs like more, it feels like she was kidding, but like more than you love me. I was like, because they love me all, you know, like they give
I've heard that a few times too.
unconditional love. So yeah. Anyway,
I've heard that. So awesome. I get it.
Mhm.
All right. Well, I want to jump into this and talk
Mhm.
a little bit about your work first.
Sure.
Tell us a little bit, because I'm excited about, like I looked over your stuff. I'm excited about what you're doing, because I think a lot of it really resonates with the work that I'm doing and have studied, and kind of the interests that I have. And I know we got to chat a little bit. This is the first time we're meeting. We got to spend a little time before this recording. Wish we would have hit the recording button, because there's so much content there. But share with us a little bit in the audience what it is that you're doing right now to help your clients.
Yeah. So, I'm a stress management coach. So I've segged into like, I mean, it was always life coaching with the search for joy, I guess, as the kind of undercurrent for the work. But, so I help, stressed out professionals, stressed out people, and a lot of them are entrepreneurs, or, developing entrepreneurs, that they have to work in, the day job, and then they're doing the entrepreneurship on top of that. And so just helping them really regulate their nervous system, the autonomic nervous system, through this vagal nerve work. And for the ones that are open to it, chanting, which is, an Eastern practice that a lot of Westerners are like, no, I can't do that. But I created a technique called body informed resiliency, and it promotes physiological resiliency in the body. There's a lot of talk about resiliency, but a lot of that is psychological resiliency, which is kind of a reframing practice, reframing challenges and obstacles. It's hugely important. What's happening though is we have so many potential stressors in our lives. And then on top of that, the pace at which we're conducting business, and the difficulty with kind of shutting that off. Because like you said, we kind of changed the way we did things. It moved more into our home, which is great in a lot of ways, but there's not that separation. So like shutting it off is hard. Shutting off the mind and really dedicating yourself to the practice of nervous system regulation. So body informed resiliency, I call it any chair, almost anywhere. Like they're just simple exercises. I taught yoga and meditation, still do, for 20 plus years. So I have that background, and I think these just came from that really during COVID. And they're simple exercises that tone the ventral branch of the vagus nerve. So we can talk a little bit about that in just a minute, but the ventral branch is the one that it brings in a regulation. It's the rest and digest. And we can drill down deeply about that, but really it is, there's the parasympathetic nervous system is the one that does help you calm down. And these are just, for lack of a better term, hacks that, simple hacks that are cumulative, like so many good exercises are, and can really help just to get that state of calmness, a little bit of calmness, so you can see what your next step is in a non-reactive way. So.
Yeah, this is good. And I'm listening to you, and we have so many parallels. I love it, because, and we're going to talk about what led you to this in a few minutes. And I do want to kind of talk about this whole nervous system thing, because, a couple things. One, I studied meditation too. So I did transcendental meditation. So I'm familiar with some of that. I always tell you that's the expensive meditation stuff.
Yeah, the expensive, the pricey one.
The expensive meditation. And I did that again. I did that at a time my daughter and I needed it. That was when I was kind of in the thick of my medical stuff, and I was looking for a way to calm myself down. And my daughter was going through some stuff, so we kind of did it simultaneously. But I also, funny story about the yoga. So I was an aerobics instructor for many years in my early 20s when my daughter was little. And back then we had step and traditional aerobics classes, and I remember I went in to go learn how to do yoga. And keep in mind, I'm in my late 20s. And I remember walking in and I was like, these people are breathing funny. No.
I
laugh about it now because now that's my jam. Like those are the things I actually really appreciate now and like, and I like the calmness of it and the serenity and just the focusing on the breathing. But I think there's a time and place for all these things, right? Yeah. Like we sometimes get thrown into these things, but I think we embrace them at certain times in our lives. So I love the parallels, but also I'm listening to you talk about the nervous system stuff. Now I'm familiar with those. I know the audience probably isn't all of that stuff you were talking about because I'm trained in it. I'm familiar with it. And a lot of the work I do, I tell people the things that I have are really, that's not my area of specificity, because what I do is I help people work through the blocks, which you were talking about a minute ago, which is a reframing. However, that is not the only tool that works to get people to de-stress, right? Because we can do affirmations all day long, or we can say, I'm going to change the way I'm looking at this. But what we know is that most of our nerves come from the outside in. So everything around us is what's stimulating us and keeping us going or not going, right? And there's only about 20% of those nerves that are coming out from the head. So we really can't outthink our body. We can't tell our body, right? We have to do things to calm it down. And so I think that's where this is what I've learned, why this nervous system stuff is so important. And I just did a class on this. Oddly enough, before I met you, I did a workshop on this in July where I was actually talking to entrepreneurs about why they needed to know this for their business, because it's not just a health hack. It is so you can be more productive and show up better and be more attuned and be calmer and not reactive and all of those things, right? Yeah. So I just want to tell you, I love what you're doing, because this all is in my wheelhouse. It's stuff I'm that I'm familiar with. And I don't know, I want to talk about how you got into it, but I can tell you for me, it was one day I got on YouTube and I'm I kept hearing vagus nerve. And I'm looking because of my digestive system. And I had it, my GI was saying, when you have pain in your digestive system, sometimes you need to reset the vagus nerve. So I'm in there splashing cold water on my face, right? Doing different things that we things which work. Yeah. But I needed to find little things that I could do that were quick and easy and effective, because even though I'm working out and doing all these other things, sometimes we need a little bit more, right? We need some other things that work to do that. And plus I wanted to be able to help my clients with this, but it all started really when I was looking for me. That's the point, is that I got on YouTube and I'm I keep hearing vagus nerve, and then I come up to this nervous system regulation. I'm well, we talked about this in science in school, but what is this about, So it's cool stuff is what I'm saying. Yeah,
that's really great. You said something. Well, the origin piece for me is it's a funny story, and I'll share it with you if now's a good time.
Yeah, do tell us. Yes, go ahead, tell us.
So how it started for me was I started yoga. So I'm in the Austin, Texas area, and Austin has kind of a hippie sensibility, kind of a weird sensibility, and yoga was really huge here. It starting in 2000, but really before then, because of the hippie population. But I came to it in 2001, and then moved out to LA and did some pretty extensive training out there. And in LA, there was the practice I practiced out there was, we had an invocation at the beginning. So there was chanting. This is back to my love of chanting. Yeah. And I would notice when I was doing that, particularly chanting the sound Om, which most people know Om it's the primordial sound. It's a mantra. It's I just say it's all things good. It's the universe in a sound. But I would start yawning and my eyes would start watering, and I would look around and it's not really happening to anyone else. I think it was these sacred sounds, because they were in Sanskrit, and those have very healing properties. And so this just continued to happen. I was talking to my teacher. He's like, no, I don't do that. But I would always feel better afterwards. I would feel calmer. I would feel alert, even more so than the yoga. It was crazy. I mean, I love yoga, but hatha yoga is a physical practice, right? Which, like you said, there's a place for everything. And So, I kind of just started doing Om on my own when I, was feeling like if my energy dropped or if I was feeling stressed. And these physiological, traits would occur, this yawning, this eye watering, and then I would feel better and people are like, okay. So, fast forward many years, I'm doing I hear about the vagus nerve. I do some exercises for the vagus nerve, not splashing cold water is certainly great. But even moving the spine, moving the eyes a certain way, same things would happen. The yawning, the specifically for me, the yawning and the eyes watering. So I read a book, I think in 2020, by Stanley Rosenberg, and he's just so backing up a little bit. Stephen Porges, I forget the dates, but
I know that name.
Yeah. It's he posited the polyvagal theory.
Right.
So the vagus nerve, a quick overview, is cranial nerve 10. It's it's in the base of the brain. And it's the longest nerve in the body. Vagus is Latin for wandering because it just kind of wanders around, right? And it innervates the face. So it provides nerve endings to the face, to the mouth, to the throat, to the heart, to the lungs, and to the viscera. So your digestive stuff, working the vagus nerve, can really help because it is in the intestines. And you can work backwards. So if you're working the nerves, and I do facial massage as part of Body Informed Resiliency, if you're working those nerves, then it has a positive effect on it tones the ventral branch. The ventral branch is the front branch, and then the dorsal is the back, on the dorsal fin type. And it's actually the ventral branch that is really good. It is the one you want to focus on for this nervous system regulation, so this rest and digest. So we have Porges who's done this theory. Stanley Rosenberg is I think he's based out of the Netherlands, and he's this amazing body practitioner, and he works with the vagus nerve, and he wrote a book. And so when you know that the ventral branch is kind of coming online, you get these physiological responses, and those are yawning, swallowing, and sighing. And then I add to that eyes watering for me. And so now whenever those responses happen, I know that I'm kind of coming into this more regulated state. And yeah, that is a very long story, but it happened because of chanting and yoga, basically, is how I came upon the vagus nerve. And that was a long time ago. And then I was like, oh yeah, this is vagus nerve. And then just built on that.
Yeah, that's so interesting too. Mm-hmm. And when you talk about the chanting, and yeah, because I feel like that's sort of like the somatic release, right? Like it's you're working through it. And that's part of some of the stuff like I've studied too. And I've done some of that, and I'm with you. It does make a difference. I feel like some of this you're talking about, like the eye watering, that's what ASMR does to me sometimes. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. When I sit on the couch and I get on TikTok every once in a while and I'm flipping through the videos, I'll land on one of those things and all of a sudden I'll start that, my eyes start that, and I'm like yawning. I'm like, oh, I need to go to bed. I just need to go to bed. Yeah, but I get it. I get it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, tapping, the EFT, emotional freedom technique, like I'll start doing that. I feel like any kind of real somatic healing work will do that for me. And usually, or almost always, it's something I have to do on myself. Because I don't get the same, like we talked about massage and acupuncture and chiropractor, all amazing, super important work, I think, really for circulation and meridian work.
Right.
But what learning about the vagus nerve has done for me is it's empowered me in a way that nothing else has, because I can basically use my own hands and my own body to heal myself. Now, it doesn't release me from all of the problems and challenges in my life, but once you know how to do that, like it gives you this like cozy, this sense of self-coziness is what I'm working, I'm wanting to bring this cozy quality of integrity and wholeness. You give that gift to yourself. So yeah, I just love the
So
vagus
to your
nerve.
point on this, like just this morning, okay, so typically my morning routine, I want to, and this might be good for you to share with the
Mhm.
audience, is like, and I like some example of this, because some of the things that I do, like this morning, I sort of tell people, like, I'm up at 5 pretty much every day during the week. This week's been a little weird because I was sick for a couple of days. So I was getting up at 5 and going back to bed and getting up and going back to bed. Today I got up at 5. I've been up since. I'm feeling good. Been up since. So a normal routine for me when I get up in the morning is, I get up at that time. I usually eat breakfast and then I walk my dogs. I come back and then I like to have a little period of time where I read my book and then I do some type of nervous system type activity. And so today I did tapping. I'll do 2 minutes of, I have
Mhm.
found that, I have a lot of different little hacks and things I can do, but I have found that particular exercise for me is so good. Like if I just sit there and do that, when I'm
Yeah.
like, if I'm having like a lot of, like I'm having an angst moment, like a really high, like I need to calm down, I will just be like,
Mhm.
like, and I will do it all over
Just
for like 2
tapping your
minutes.
body.
Yeah,
I
two
love
two
that.
minutes, 2 minutes. And it will get me kind of energized. It's like, I almost feel like it like gets the blood flowing, or it just
Mhm.
makes me feel like I'm getting things moving, but it will kind of calm me down. Like I didn't like, say, I just did it right now. I'm feeling like, whew, like it just does something to me.
I know.
So
And
I'm
when
with
you were
you
doing it, I want to do it. I'm like, oh, that feels so, yeah, that feels so
yeah.
good.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's just a good, there's all obviously more because we'll do like sometimes like arm squeezes, right? Or like,
Mhm.
the arm leg. There's a lot box breathing. There's a lot of different little hacks you
Mhm.
can do. But that is like, I have an app that tells me like different ones to do. That is my favorite go-to is the tapping one. It's like my favorite, like if I just need something.
Love it.
But
Love
maybe
that.
for you, for the audience, because they're going, like I'm kind of introducing this to the people in my world. And obviously this has been a thing for you for a while, but maybe for somebody listening to this, they're going, okay, what is all this about? Like, what is something they can do? Like something, how can they integrate this into their life without it being like complicated? We don't have to give them everything,
Yeah.
but like, is there something we can throw at them?
Yeah. I think tapping is a great one. I do a lot of like hand massage. I feel like it's self-touch because the hands are, I call them little magic wands. But they're extension of the heart energy, and a lot of healing really takes place from the heart, the heart, the energetic center of the heart, because that is about love, and what's behind all healing is love, right? So anything you can kind of do with your hands. I do a lot of hand massage, also just seated cat cow. So it's like you blast your heart forward on an inhale, and on the exhale you round it back with your feet on the floor, just stretching the spine. What that does is it moves cerebral spinal fluid.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, so those two things, while they're not like particular like vagus nerve hacks, I think they can have a lot of benefit. What you were saying about like kind of gently kind of pound,
Yeah, don't
not
beat
pound it.
yourself up.
Yeah, like
Sometimes I want to be like,
well, there is actually, Qigong. I did have a yoga teacher who was huge on Qigong, and she would get, she worked up to this.
yeah.
But, so Qi is life force. And a lot of it comes from digestion in that whole area, because, a lot of Qi comes from the kidneys, and they're in that area. But she would hit herself with a brick on her stomach. Not suggesting that, but
yeah.
I think a way to really, like, I find that I do that too. Not the brick stuff, but I'll, with my fists, just kind of palpate my stomach area, the intestine area. That will refresh you. So, in terms of body informed resiliency, which is specific vagal nerve work, ventral vagal nerve work, it's I will do, so I have eye work, I have mouth work, I have trunk work, which that the spinal flexion is part of. But the mouth work, people are like, this is crazy, but it works. I flick the tip of my tongue on the roof of my mouth, and you can try it if you want.
Yeah.
You just do that. For me, then usually the tears flow, the eyes water. And but then it does something well, I know what it does. It stimulates the vagus nerve, let's say that.
Yeah.
And then they can do that quickly. They can stick out their tongue like, because the vagus nerve does provide nerve endings here. So if you're working these areas, it's having a backwards effect onto the ventral branch. And raspberries with the mouth, like, I feel like a lot of this stuff is we did it as kids, but we're just we're told, obviously it's not appropriate everywhere, but if you're working from home and you're like, I'm in such a slump and I don't want to get up and walk the block or something, just spinal flexions and working the mouth, stretching the lips, like, which looks crazy. That kind of stuff, will really help. It regulates. You become calmer and more alert.
And there's science on this stuff. It's important. I mean, I don't know, this group that I got certified with, they've done studies on this stuff and found that, like, when people, really dedicate time to this, within like a week, they'll start seeing significant reductions in their stress from doing it. And I will tell you, like, I have a tracking app that when I am consistent, like, meaning I do it, and I'm pretty good about it. I got off a little bit this past week. Maybe I ended up sick. I got really busy and got off of it a little bit, and then I got sick. But when I stay on it consistently, because it's not just this particular thing has you being mindful about a lot of things, like how much time are you spending time, what time are you eating? When are you going to bed? Are you spending time online before going to bed? Who are you serving? All these other things, which I love to talk about because I think there's a lot to this, right? To being healthy. But when I track it, like, I can see patterns. I can actually see the patterns, like in my heart rate and stuff. And I can look at my watch, which is one of these lovely little sleep coach Garmin's. I've had a sleep coach on the podcast before. We've talked about it because this thing can either be my best friend or it will stress me out to no end. If I wake up in the morning and I see orange all night long, or my heart HRV is low, something's going on. I'm either stressed or I'm sick. This week it's been all erratic because I was sick. Last night it finally started going back down to normal again. I'm like, thank you, Jesus. We're going back to normal again. But it's crazy because I can look at that app and I can look at this and I can see correlation between when I'm doing that and how things are navigating on my heart rate and my HRV, all that stuff that's going on in my watch. And I know this stuff is not 100% accurate, but I don't look for like specific numbers. I'm looking for trends. That's what I look at, is I look at over time, the trends, and I can see it. So there is, I believe, credibility to this and value to it. I think it's important. And I think it's, understanding that nervous system is not just about the stress we have in our, our physical stress in our life. It's all the stuff that's coming in. It's our surroundings, our work environment, our family, all these things that we're perceiving and taking in. And when you have that day in and day out, and we're not being mindful of how to bring that back down, we're staying in this stress load all the time. So then our threshold gets really small, right? We have a less window of tolerance to deal. So what you're really advocating for is that to bring us back in a better state where we're going to, I believe, have more creativity, more resilience, more tolerance, all those things we need to find joy and fulfillment, really.
Yeah. Thank you. That was perfect. I'm going to write that down on my website.
Like, that is how I see it.
That's it. That's right. Jennifer Loehding says this, and that's right. Damn it.
Get the clip. You take that part up, make that your little testimony.
I know,
or
right?
Like a little, because I think what you're doing is so much of what I talk about in the work that I do, and I think it stems from years of trying to figure things out for yourself,
Entrepreneurs, are you ready to level up your leadership skills? Tune in now for an exclusive offer designed just for you.
This is my time.
Did you know 63% of consumers prefer businesses aligned with their values? Recognizing your core values isn't just vital for business growth, it's the bedrock of effective leadership. Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or an aspiring creator, identifying your core values is a key step in constructing the framework of a successful leader, enabling you to lead authentically, expand your business, and live life on your terms.
I never settled on play, putting the kettle to flame. I go 100 all day, foot on the pedal, no brakes. 10, 9, paid all my dues, waited in line. 8, 7,
Are you ready to access tools to kickstart your leadership journey? Unlock a treasure trove of insights and get your free resources at www.linktree/Jennifer Loehding. Take that crucial first step toward realizing your leadership aspirations and elevate your leadership game today.
Ready to shine.
You know, like I go on other people's podcasts and I talk about my story, and because they'll ask me, tell me, I'm like, oh, you better sit down for a while, because this has been since 2012. So what are we on? 24, a 12-year journey. I'm sure it started before that, because I was in Mary Kay for 22 years. I'm sure it started, but it really began for me in 2012, and it has been an ongoing quest. And I feel like I don't have all the answers, but I'm finally putting the things together now and realizing that all those years that I thought exercise was all we needed to do to be healthy. No, that was the tip of the iceberg, like the tip of the iceberg. It took me having 2 major health crises for me to really come to a place where I started realizing that all of this stuff going on in my life wasn't just because I was dealt a bad hand. Some of it was because of the way I was living my life, the things I was doing, that we all have a role in these things. And even though we are dealt some things in life to deal with, we have a choice on how we want to navigate them, how we want to go through life with them, and I don't know about you, but I'm not very good at being a victim.
Yes, I'm picking up on that, and I dig it very much. What was it? Yeah, I mean, I think we were talking a little bit about this before we hit record. Most healers come to it, unless they're like second generation healers. They come to it because of their own, illness or dis-ease, right? That's what kind of brings us to it. And, for me, I think that we all have, our different challenges. I mean, mine, I think really was depression. That led me to yoga. You talked about group exercise. I did group exercise in my 20s, and
another
really
parallel.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, really enjoyed that. It's also very empowering. It's a form of expression, and that's super important as a human. We want to do that and feel our own strength and feel the strength of this amazing gift, our bodies, right? So as I'm getting older, what I'm noticing, there are body changes. And the Eastern thought is, the Eastern approach, which is yoga and, acupuncture, Chinese medicine, is that, there's the meat body, we're treating the meat, and then there's the energetic body. And when we talk about, the really body and form resiliency, it does help meat sounds bad, but just like the matter, the organs, the muscles, it helps that, but it really works also on the energetic portion. And, the energetic portion is a little harder to define. It's a little harder to treat, but man, you've probably been in the presence of an acupuncturist or something, when they do it right, you're like, this is amazing, and really that is the nervous system, the meridians, the nadis in yoga. So, that, especially as I'm getting older, and, you can certainly maintain a good physical robustness, but it's these more subtle exercises that I'm finding that are working as effectively for me as some of the more, gross, larger, exercises. Although having said that, like weightlifting is the fountain of youth, because we have to keep the muscle. Right. But to me, that's about maintenance in terms of like feeling good. It's about working with the nervous system and these meridians. So yeah. And I think you're right. Like, it's your own personal journey. Like, I guess I was gifted early on to know, hey, we have depression. There's there's just some sadness here through generational trauma, through, choices that certainly I made, my family made, and so, sometimes knowing, hey, I don't want that, is a great place to start, like. Yeah.
No, and this is good too, because as I'm listening to you say this, and I was getting chills when you're talking about the acupuncturist, because yes, when you do have a powerful, you feel that. I think when I hear the energy part of this, it gets me back to, it really ties back even to the mindset. It comes all the way back. So we're talking about that, right? Because it's almost like I could say this in so many different ways, and I've said it in so many different ways in different episodes. You know, it's almost like when you're not well, your mindset has a lot to do with whether or not you get well. It really does, and how you navigate the situation. And, you know, when I know in my personal case, I can tell you every time, whenever I'm in a place of, we're going to get better, we're going to keep fighting and get through this, it doesn't mean it's easy. It means that I end up figuring out how to get out of it, right? And take this so far outside of that, but just take that into a space where we're doing, like, I used to talk about running because I'm a former marathon runner. My husband and I used to run a lot. He was an endurance athlete, so we would run every single weekend, multiple things. And I remember I told this story recently to somebody, like, I would go out on a Saturday and run a half marathon and be like, okay, no problem, got this, get out there and do it. And then the very next day, my husband would be like, let's go do a 5K. And I'm like, seriously, we just ran 13 miles and you want to go do a 5K? And I'd be dragging my feet to get there. And even though I was physically qualified, trained to run that 5K, mentally, emotionally, all the pieces, I could not do it. And so that, I think that energy really it's deep. It evolves into our mindset and everything, because, you know, if you wake up in the morning, let's think about that. If you wake up in the morning and you're like, today's going to be a bad day, I just feel, you feel that way, right? But if you get up and you feel great, what do? Your day is completely different. It looks different, right? Because you feel great, you got it. And so I think that when we're talking about all these things you're talking about, like this nervous system, everything's energy work, I think it really evolves into that. It really pushes into how we show up, and we, you know, that's why when I said I'm not good at being a victim, it's an energy thing for me. Like, I just don't have the capacity to be like this. And when I'm like this, I'm sad and I'm depressed, and I have to do the things I need to do to keep my energy at that level, because that's how I feel like I'm thriving.
Yeah.
And you probably feel the same way.
Absolutely. I think though, what I'm learning, and maybe you are as well. So this concept, you know, like, there has to be a balance. And a lot of times what we think is depression is actually just kind of an emptiness that, and it's very important to the cycle of creation for us to be in the emptiness and allow that, you know, obviously it can't go on and on, but, you know, a day or two, or after a half marathon, I think you've earned a day or two of rest, you know, like, you know, like, I
can argue with you on that.
Yeah. But just allowing for the emptiness and recognizing, okay, I'm not depressed. I'm just emptying out so that the next cycle can start, this next cycle of creativity. Cause, you know, and that's very hard for us as humans. I think I personally notice men do it better than women. Like, you know how a lot of dudes can just kind of sit and be, or at least my dude, like, he can, like, I'm going to chill so that I have the energy to do the next thing. So, during that time is especially these very subtle kind of, easy exercises can and help feed you, nourish you without, you know, kind of taking away from the push. You know, certainly sometimes it's time to push, you know, and not let ourselves get complacent. You know, we need the discipline there. But, you know, I feel like that is part of the art of being a human, is knowing when to push, knowing when to just be. You know, that's that being part versus do, which is certainly important. But yeah, like, I'm amazed, but you're my hero, like, to be able to run, you know,
I don't run like that anymore.
Half marathons.
Yeah, I don't run like that anymore. I'm not crazy like that. But you know, in listening to, the word that's going through my mind is detox. That's what's going through my mind, is just a detox, right? It's allowing yourself time to, and two, I think you also said, like, accept your feelings, like, accept accept what you're, be okay with that. Be okay in that moment, right? That's something I'm having that, and I that may be why you're working with these entrepreneurs, because they tend to, we're all high achievers, right? So we tend to push, grind, and we fail. And I work with entrepreneurs as well, because I know we're both entrepreneurs. So we know what it's like to be in that space, right? We like to push and grind. And that's why a while ago, I was telling you about my morning routine. I really guard that, because I know that when I have that time for myself, that's my moment of detox. It's my time to let things process, go out, get ready for the day. I get really angry when people interrupt it. Like, seriously, like I'm like, just leave me alone.
Yeah.
That's my time. Get out. I don't want to be messed with right now, So
I call them refuge practices. Like, you're taking like refuge within yourself. Or the cozy practices, and you absolutely need that time. So
I agree.
I talk a lot of my clients, they don't, I help them establish those morning routines. And you're right. It's so easy for us to drop them. Like, if things get busy, because that's, I think that's part of being human. Like, there is an aliveness there to like go out and do the thing, you want to do, and you want to be in the flow, and it can feel, a bit frightening to step away and just be with yourself. But, when you can couch it in like, this morning practice or any of these practices are going to help you be more productive. Americans usually were okay, productive, like, I feel like maybe Europeans, other cultures, not so, I don't have to be productive all the time. But there's some great things that come from that. So, not shaming productivity. It's super important.
We just got to find balance. That's where I like to say the word harmony. I feel like it's a much more achievable word for us to learn how to live in harmony. And that means we just have to give and take. We got to, allow some things to take more, some, ebb and flow a little bit. And
I love that, because you're right. Like, this notion of balance, it comes with it. The idea of perfection, and it
has to be equal, right? Like, it has to be equal, and nothing's ever equal.
Nope. Sometimes you have to just give and give and give until you drop, and then restore. And it's not going to look perfect. Like, every day I wake up and, the bluebirds come and put my robe on me. It's nothing like, it's not like the beginning of Grease, where it's like everything and my bed is magically made. No. It's, so I love harmony. I think that's a great term for it.
So I'd love to ask you, this has been great, and I never know where these are going to go. Like, we didn't even get to many of these questions because this conversation was what we needed to talk about, and I love it.
Yeah.
But I would love to know, like, as far as like what you love about all this work. I mean, I feel like you're passionate about it. I can feel it through your languaging, and I feel people's energy. I pick up on it. So I can tell you love what you're doing and you're passionate about it, but I would love to hear from you what it is that you love about this work.
Golly. I mean, there's just so much. Like, I feel like the biggest thing for me is that sense of empowerment that no one can, I don't think, or it's something I can continue to do, continues to grow for me. I was telling you about this book, The Complete System of Self-Healing. And I love that really body form resiliency is much like this energy work in here. Like, some of the things he's saying, just kind of, I have inside confirmation. It works for me. I don't care if it's tied to anything outside of it. But then for me to be reading these book of these ancient Eastern practices, that it does correspond with those. Like, I love that, like that overlap. I love to feel like it's so small and seemingly simple, but that it can really have great impact in the world. Because when I'm like, when you're a conscious mind and you're pushing, and it's, you're kind of doing it, it's a slightly agitated state that you're doing that from. And I think that can have, some blowback. But when you're moving from that state of harmony, like you said, or more harmony than you would if you're just like, okay, I gotta go, 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 go. I don't know. I love the impact that, kind of the butterfly effect that can have on the world. So, yeah, I know that's really subtle stuff. I would say if we're looking for a less subtle, response, it's the empowerment piece. Like, it's that refuge practice. It's something that I can always do for myself. And it doesn't involve going outside of myself to do it. And I just find that there's maybe a self-sufficiency empowerment there that I want to share with others, because I think a lot of times, because we get so much sensory input, we're like, I got to try this. I got to do that. I got to, but it also puts me in touch with my intuition. So I know exactly what I need to do next. Like you were talking about the things you did to feel better.
Yeah.
When you were sick, like that, those were very personal to you, and they could only have really come from this sense, this intuition, this like, okay, I need to do this next. I don't necessarily need to go do a cold plunge. Nothing against cold plunges. They're great. But we're getting so much information about like health and what you should do. You should do this. And to me, that can cause anxiety, because I was like, okay, I got to run after that.
Right.
But this comes from within. So very long answer, and thank you for listening. Because
that's good. No, and I think that there's so much that I'm listening to all of that, and I think that when you were talking about it's almost like having the ability to know that you can do something. I think just that you have some control. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like you're not saying. I think when you feel like you have tools, and I feel like maybe that's what maybe your work is that. I feel like that's how my work is. I feel like all the tools that I gather together, they give me like kind of an arsenal that I can wear in my tool belt. And I had a elite runner come on my show one time that talked about that. I had asked her, she was an Olympic trial qualifier, a good friend here. And one of the questions we had asked her is, like when you're sitting at the starting line, what's going through your mind? You're up against all these elite runners that are trying to get into the Olympics, right? She's like, why rely on my tool belt? And I think that's what I think about when I think about these kinds of things. Like what you're saying is that when you have these tools that you've learned, you almost go like, I can rely on something. Like if I get in a situation where I feel like I need something, I have something. And although we're looking at this from a perspective of these should be things you do on a continual basis, it gives us some kind of comfort knowing that we have something that we can look at. And that's really, and maybe this is what you do. This is how I approach everything that I learn. Like I continually keep learning things and I keep evolving. And it's not because I want to be like, hey, I know this or I know that and I want to be better. No. It's really, I study it for me. I study it because I want to be healthy and I want to show up as the best person that I can be. Whether that's in the meat, the body, but it's also in the spiritual mind, the physical, the energy, all of that. I want to show up well because I know that it's all about both the mind and the body, right? It's the whole well-being. It just, to me, when we are equipped and show up better, we give ourselves permission to help others around us. And I think that's what this is. When I'm hearing you say all this, that's what it's this impact that I'm getting from you of just, and I talk about it, funny enough, I talk about the butterfly effect in my book. I have a whole little thing about that in my book.
Oh, yay.
Yeah, because that's it. Like if you look on my LinkedIn thing, it says, thrive together, succeed together. Because my whole thing is that when we show up better as human beings in all the ways, we have the ability to touch others' lives and help them create better lives for themselves.
And then we're all lifted,
Yes.
I read this great book. You might really like her, Anna Dea Judith. She does a lot of work on the psychology of the chakras. But I think it's her most recent one, or one of them is called The Global Heart Awakens. And I keep remembering this line. She's like, one of the purposes of God is to create more gods. And I'm not saying that like we're all going to be gods, but you know, in terms of the universe, we are a drop in the ocean of the universe, right. I think, and we are made in a God-like image, and what that means is this ability for self-mastery, in my opinion. You know, I'm not here to be like, I'm a god or anything, you know, but to have self-mastery and to have self-love and healing, and then to be able to share that. And usually, you know, it's very practical ways. It's these tools. It's a toolkit, like you said. And also, you know, life does kind of tend towards entropy. So we have to keep learning and keep evolving in this way. At least I do, because to me, like the entropy path, and I have family members on that path. I'm like, I can't do it. You know, it's just, I can't be in that lane. I have to be in this lane. You know, entropy, and then the negativity bias of the mind, right? Like a lot of it is you're trying to counteract that. At least for me. So
yeah, no, it's good. I feel like we could talk forever.
Yeah, let's please do.
I feel like I know we're like, we got to wrap up here because I know you got things to do, and
totally.
The day has to go on. But you know what? This has been so awesome. I love the conversation. I love what you're doing. I think it's important work. And I feel like we could jump back on here and have a whole nother conversation and keep talking more about this because there's so much to talk about. I do want to ask you a couple fun questions because I think we need to get a few fun ones in here a little bit just to kind of talk a little bit about the business side of things, and then we'll wrap this up real quick. But any inspirations, like you were talking about the book just a minute ago, you shared that with us, but any other like inspirational people or books or anything that kind of has helped you along the way in this journey?
So I find like doing things completely outside of entrepreneurship, you know, art to me is very inspiring. So, finding time for that, art and nature, super important. And then recently I got into, Greek and Roman history, which I know is, you know, it's just, sometimes you do things completely different. Like whatever you're curious about, just follow that. It doesn't have to be related to entrepreneurship. In fact, for me, I have to do things completely outside of it, and that, you know, filling that cup of inspiration, and that I think a very simple way is just nature. You know,
I get you. I'm not a linear person either. I tend to do things outside the box too. So I absolutely can resonate with that, and I think it's totally okay. I think it's okay. You don't have to do what everybody does and whatever inspires you.
Yeah, and I mean, also like just kind of being a bit nutty every now and then, like just kind of going a little bit crazy. And how I mean, it's kind of that wild woman archetype, I guess, where you're just like being silly and dancing like no one's watching, kind of thing. You know, it feeds the soul. So all of that is soul work, and the soul stuff has nothing to do with achievement. It's just existing in life and being in joy. So, yeah.
Well, I don't want to ask you like what your guilty pleasure is, because I know you eat like I do. So you eat well. So I would love to know, like in your, I mean, I feel like I tell you like, okay, so if I were to say guilty pleasure, I would tell you it would be something like like yogurt with pecans or something like that, because that's how I eat now. But sometimes I, like to, it's funny, I'll go get ice cream and then I'll go find a low carb ice cream because I'm like, I need ice cream badly, but I'm going to go get the low carb ice cream. I'll go get that. So is there anything that you feel like is like the thing you like just don't ever eat, but it would be like the good thing that you would like once in a while go have?
I mean, you've inspired me to look at my diet, and also there's a functional doctor I want to reach out to. We were talking about that. I was like, I need to sit with that. Right? But what you talked about, the functional and chelation, that's been on my mind recently. Anyway, I digress. So it sounds like, I mean, hats off to the way that you eat. I just try not to make myself feel guilty for, because there's the energy behind.
Yes.
Because it sounds like you're super disciplined. I have some work to do on that in terms of getting better. And just so you don't feel, I don't want you to feel bad. I've had to just because of my health. Because of my health. And I tell people that all the time, that
Because if I wasn't sick, I probably wouldn't. I didn't grow up healthy eating. I mean, we were microwave kids, you know, like ate out almost every night of the week or in the microwave.
Yeah.
But it's just because I don't want to be sick. That's exactly what it comes down to for me, is don't want to be sick. So I don't want you to feel like this is like,
oh, no, I don't. You know, and that you bring up a good point. It's like, how can you be inspired by something but not feel bad about yourself that you're not there?
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's just the inspiring piece. You didn't at all. Like you just, and that's like the best thing that you can hope for. Like you just inspired me. Like you didn't, I was like, I could do that. Like that's great information. So, you know, I think I have a lot of guilty pleasures.
what's the main guilty pleasure then?
I think it is something sweet at the end of the day. Like just having something, I do stay gluten-free because for the most part, because when I don't, it's that thing. You just feel it. You feel like crap. I feel it immediately. So, and I think it's just because it attacks the thyroid immediately for me. But yeah, so yeah, just having like cakey, chocolatey, sweet at the end of the day, like, and something small. So
I like sweets.
Hopefully.
Too. I do like sweets too. I don't crave them. Oddly enough, I don't crave them near as much as I used to. What I found for me personally, because of the low carb, like if I start off the morning with like a lot of carbs, I will all day want carbs. If I just do like, I'm like, no kidding, almost every day bacon and eggs, almost every single day bacon and eggs. And I'm fine with that. It's simple, it's easy, and I'm fine. And if I start off like that, I'll do pretty good all day. But if I mess it up in the morning, it'll follow me like all day. And I'll have to be like, I want to get in the, and everybody will be like, peanut butter is not bad. Well, if you eat enough of it, it's got carbs. I mean, it's peanuts. You'll get enough. I mean, nuts have carbs in them. And so I'll be constantly in the nuts, you know, like I'm in the pecans and I'm in the peanuts and peanut butter. And so I have to, I do watch it. But again, it gets back to, for me, it's just strictly, I just don't want to be sick. Like you with the gluten. I don't want to me, it's not worth waking up the next day and feeling like dog crap all day.
Yeah.
You know?
That's
so.
Well, and I don't know about you. Like and I think this may be where your discipline comes in. I don't necessarily wake up hungry. I'm like one of those people. And so I'm trying to listen to my body. Well, what I've did, like you have to have that, like that morning routine, you know, for me, I do this work, and it does get the circulation going. And I think it's just because we're waking up and the circulation's not going, obviously. Once that is, then I'll feel more hungry. But like sometimes, so that's where I'm like, oh, I'll just have a little piece of toast. But you're absolutely right. It sets you up for this thing all day, and you want the carbs and that's it's not
pesky
good.
little carbs. They're good, but they're just trying pesky. You know?
They're getting in the way.
I don't ever like that. Like I said in the very beginning, I don't want to advocate for people to, you know, like I'm trained in keto, but listen, you know, I think everybody's different. And that's what I think is great about working with people. I love that you mentioned a minute ago about listening to your body. And I think the big thing, the not feeling guilty, because that's really what I teach people when I work with them, is about making choices. So that if you decide that if I sit down today, Marie, and I say, I want a piece of cake, I'm not going to feel guilty about eating the cake, because for the most part, I don't eat the cake. I'm probably just going to feel like crap tomorrow if I eat the cake, but I'm not going to feel guilty about it. And that's really what I advocate for. So I love that you said that, because I think that's what's important with this is, and I don't think it's just about food. It's about everything in life. It's about not feeling guilty about the choices you make, because you do what you feel like you need to do on most days. If you do this, you're not going to feel guilty about it, you know? And so I love that you said that, because I think that's an important thing. So one final thing I want to ask you, well, actually two. I got two questions. I want to wrap this up, because like I said, we're going to be here forever if I don't, because I just love what you're doing. I want to know if you had to sum yourself up. This was not on here. This is just a fun question I asked. But if you had to sum yourself up in a couple words, what would you say about Marie Young?
Oh my gosh. Committed to evolution, to evolving.
I like it.
Evolving myself and growth, growth mindset.
Yeah, I like it. I like it.
Yeah.
I share that message. I like it.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Okay. And then my very last question, which is the important question. Our audience listening to this today, maybe they want to get in touch with you. They want to learn a little bit more about your work. They want to follow you. They want to see where else you're podcasting, all those good things. Where would you like us to send them?
So my website is mariebyoung.com. So Marie and then the letter B is in boy and then young.com. That's a great place to start if they'll go there, and if feel moved to, they can put in their email address and I'll send them a free guided meditation called Your Daily Boost. And that really helps. If you're having a bad day, it'll help get you here. If you're having a good day, it'll get you here. And there's that. And then I'm also at Marie Black Young on Insta, and I post daily with, tidbits and inspiration.
Okay. We'll make sure too, when the show notes go out, we'll make sure that we get the website in there. That way they can catch up with you if they want to follow you and all that. And then, of course, when this goes out, we'll get you tagged and all that too, so they know how to connect with you. So I'm excited. This has been so much fun.
Yeah.
Glad that we got you on here. Enjoyed the conversation. You're amazing. I love what you're doing, and I hope you continue to keep evolving and growing and inspiring people with all of the work that you're doing. It's been fun.
Yeah, thank you. Same. Feel the same. Thank you.
Awesome. Of course, to our audience, we hope that you found this episode inspiring and educational. And of course, if you do, head on over to all the platforms. You can hit the subscribe, like, leave a comment, share, do all the things for us. We will appreciate you, and help us get all these fabulous stories and content out there. And as I always say, in order to live the extraordinary, you must start. And every start begins with a decision. You guys take care, be safe, be kind to one another, and we will see you next time.